Well, hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. I am so excited to have Dr. Rachel Gainsbrugh on the podcast today to talk about what is a really hot topic, and that is luxury Airbnb and short-term rentals for busy professionals. And that's the key here, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Rachel was a pharmacist by day and a luxury Airbnb and short-term rental estate investor by night until she made the leap to full-time entrepreneurship in 2022. Rachel owns and manages 18 luxury short-term rentals. She's also a mom, a wife, and a real estate coach that was recently featured on a Netflix TV show showcasing one of her luxury rentals. After she achieved her goal of becoming a doctor, she found herself with over $500,000 in student loan debt. And I'm anxious to talk to her and find out if this is how she ended up in real estate investing as her side gig at the time. So welcome to the show, Rachel.
Sharon, thank you so much for having me. I cannot tell you how honored I am here to be with you today. And I thank you for the time, the energy that you have invested in us by launching this podcast years ago. And just the value that you share on this show is just absolutely amazing. I so appreciate being here with you today.
Well, thank you. I'm certainly excited because I love to come across successful female investors and let them showcase what they know. So it helps those that come after us and those that are here with us. You're just an inspiration for women and men alike.
Oh, thank you. And I'm here to share, to inspire. I'm an open book, like I was telling you a little bit earlier in the green room. So whatever I can do to add value to your audience, I am here for it.
Great. Well, let's start out. You have such an interesting story about where you were born, where you grew up. I want to start out and have you tell a little bit about how you got here, because I just touched on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in Haiti, the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. We migrated to Miami, Florida, where I grew up. And that's where I really learned the importance of education. My parents taught me in order to get out of our situation, because financials and financial means were very paltry at that time. In order to transition from that situation to a better situation, I would need to get educated. So I got laser focused in my education, got the big doctorate degree, and landed a whopping $500,000 in student loans. And oh boy, yes. And unfortunately, financial literacy was not a part of that very expensive education. Had it been, I would have probably navigated a little bit differently, but I learned quickly what taxes were. I learned quickly how to pay off student loan debt and kind of navigate through there. And so ever since then, I have been on a mission to share with others a little bit of my journey, because I don't want, others to go through what we went through. We worked multiple shifts, between my husband and I. We had 5 jobs at one point, going from hospital to hospital, this practice to that practice to pay it off. So we did practice a lot of delayed gratification in order to get on the other side of it. Because as soon as we graduated, to be honest, if I could rewind a little bit, Sharon, I felt like, wow, I just graduated. I haven't, had financial resources for years and years. And now I'm going to be this big rich woman with all this money. So I went and got the house. I got the car. We got private schools. We were like, meaning me, I was, feeling like, oh man, I'm going to be this big shot woman, big doctorate. But you realize quickly, it's not the stuff that's really going to bring you the joy. It's that peace of mind. And there was no peace of mind because we were drowning in debt. And so we radically changed our lifestyle to more support our goals and our dreams. And, fast forward later on, now we're able to delve back into the luxury things that we want, but it's not as impactful as back then when we're, drowning in debt. So it's a bit of a mindset shift. I know that's not what you asked really, but I felt it was important to share, because that really was the journey and what we went through. It wasn't all, oh, Rachel was this disciplined person. No, I went wild when I first started.
Well, I think that's important for people to know. I think that's what we do throughout our lives. We find that we have to shape shift, we have to pivot. And learning that lesson when you did was so important. But I totally understand the whole broke college person story. And then you do get a little bit of money and you go, okay, I deserve a new car. I had this exact conversation with my granddaughter. She said, when I get out of nursing school, I'm going to get this car. And I'm saying, hold on, but they see this, what they think is a path. But it's important that you tell that story because it's part of your story. So did you start out with Airbnbs right from the beginning? Was that your real estate investing strategy? And why did you do that?
Yeah, I did. And so after, that phase of our journey where we decided, okay, great, we're in a good position now. I wanted to be really strategic, Sharon, because I had been burnt out. I didn't want to go out and buy another job. And so I got laser focused on, okay, what is my next best step? And it was investing, but investing in what? And we looked at all aspects. As a matter of fact, crypto was coming to the forefront and we just decided, you know what, we don't understand it. So pass. So we said, okay, real estate, I can touch this property, I can feel it. So we said, let's just stick to real estate. But within real estate, there are so many factors and so many different verticals as well. And so because of that, we decided that we're going to evaluate each, and what we wanted to identify is number one, are we going to get amazing returns? And we're just projecting at that point. And number two, are we going to be beholden to an outrageous, work schedule? And so we had to evaluate both things. And that's when we determined, okay, number one, we wanted to check on multifamily syndications. We realized as far as the work schedule, it wasn't going to be a lot of work. It was passive investing, which we love. But at the time, the operators that we knew of, when we saw Airbnb investing, short-term rental investing, they weren't getting the best returns. So we didn't feel like it was going to give us the biggest bang for our buck. So that wouldn't work. Then we found wholesaling, for instance. We're like, wow, the returns are great. You don't really invest much, if anything, but then it's a whole full-time job. And what's my highest and best use? I probably should stay in my doctor role and get paid instead of knocking on doors and just kind of grinding it out. At that point, I said, you know what? I was exhausted. I had kids and I had already sacrificed a lot of time on grinding it out. I didn't want to continue in that path. So for us, it wasn't a good fit. And not to say both things aren't a good fit at all. You just have to know where you're at personally. What is your schedule? What is realistic for you? Because something's got to give, and you're going to be sacrificing something. So like my 19-year-old brother, I'm like, yeah, go wholesale. He was saying, would this work for me? Yeah, give it a try. Shoot your shot. It's worth it. Single guy, he can definitely give it a try. But for us, it just wasn't worth it at the time. We looked at fix and flip, and it's a whole project management another full-time job, right? And it's not marketed to us that way. Let's be honest. It's marketed, make money while you sleep. Everything's make money while you sleep, but is it really? And so when we saw Airbnb investing, short-term rental investing, as it relates to all of the other investing strategies at the time, long-term rental, syndication, wholesale, we realized the returns were significant. Although, yes, it is a lot of upfront work. We thought, you know what, let's give it a shot with just one and see if we can make it work out. I come from a world with SOPs, standard operating procedures, KPIs, key performance indicators. If we can create kind of a path and SOP, perhaps we can create a business that we can outsource a lot of that, heavy lifting to someone else. And so we started with one. We cleaned our own house. We made our own beds. We had 12 beds in this one particular property. But as we were going through, we understood how the business worked and created pretty much a path using SOPs. And the first hire was our cleaner, and then our handyman. We had a Rolodex, not full-time or anything like that, but we outsourced the cleaning immediately. The handyman we outsourced immediately as well. And then the third aspect that we outsourced was the guest communication, and that was the virtual assistant.
That's so important that people understand that, because I'm a big believer that if you're going to self-manage your properties, and I believe everybody should self-manage in the beginning, because like you said, you can't know what to expect out of someone else and expect them to do a good job if you don't know really what the SOPs are, what that looks like. So I think it's important. I don't care what your investing strategy is, that you self-manage at least for a while till you really know the business inside and out. But from a perspective on these Airbnbs, you really got the real estate side of the business, then you have the hospitality side of the business. So I'm trying to wrap my brain around what's Rachel's secret. How did she keep things on track when she had a full-time job and these investment properties, and she's doing all of this?
I got to give it to my husband as well. It was teamwork, and thankfully, at the time he was practicing full-time psychotherapy. So between his practice and me having the opportunity to work remotely, this was in 2019 when we started, a lot of things have shifted remotely. We had time in between. I was able to squeeze a 40, 50-hour week into 30 hours.
Wow.
I could actually work my W-2 effectively and create my own systems on how to do things well, how to do them quicker, how to be more efficient. And that gave me a little bit of that margin to work on my entrepreneurial side of the house. And so for those of you who are at jobs, working remotely, or in a role where you're efficient, you're a smart cookie, you can do things quicker. What are your dreams? What are some of the things that you can do, as your side hustle? How do you optimize your side hustle so that later on you can determine if you want to increase that side hustle and make it your full hustle? I said in 2020, I want my healthcare role to be my side hustle. And that's kind of where it started. So just being more efficient with my time and enlisting the help of my husband was a big game changer. And so guest communication is really important, and communication between the cleaners and the guests, and the schedules. So having the systems in place for that, but staying on top of that is key. And the great thing about being a remote worker, you can, during lunchtime, message here, a message there. And that's how it started. But we started with one, again, Sharon. We didn't go out and get a portfolio of 50, so we started with one. We wanted to optimize and systematize and make sure that the one had the operations locked and loaded. We had our dream team helping us with the one. And then when we expanded later on, we could template it out and kind of rinse and repeat and tweak along the way, and rinse and repeat and tweak along the way.
So it took you how long to get to 18? 3 years or 2 years?
Yeah, 2.5 years.
2.5. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty fast, Rachel.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty fast. And again, and that's why I love your community and communities with others who are investing, women who are investing. It was being in the right room had provided us 6 within a short period of time. So being in the right room, networking, one we did with a joint venture with a partner, and that's a whole other conversation for sure, because you don't want to get into any type of partnership, but it was all from being in the right room is how we were able to expand exponentially. So for our second one, I actually went when I realized how much I loved it. I love the design aspect of it. I'm not, a designer by training, but I actually love that piece. I love the hospitality management. I wanted to make sure that, the guests were having a great time, and all of that, the communications. How are you doing? How, I hope you settled in and you checked in and you're having a 5-star stay. All of these messages that I sent out, I templated them out. I call it in our SOP, I'll roll out the red carpet 5-star guest communication guide.
Wow.
That's what my team uses to communicate. They communicate in my voice because, like you said, Sharon, I did it first, right? And now it's my voice. And so if something is not on the roll out the red carpet, they know to escalate to me, and then we draft something together. And the last time that happened was like 9 months ago. So really, it builds on itself. But it didn't start off as, oh, this is easy peasy lemon squeezy. it was a lot of work in the beginning.
Yeah.
It was a lot of work in the beginning, but it paid us back in time.
I heard you say, we talked a little bit before we started recording, and I was listening to a podcast that you did. I didn't get to listen to the whole thing, but I love something that you said, a mantra, because I always try to have a word for each year. What's my word for this year? And you said free in 2023, but you got there in 2022. So how much do you think having that mantra helped you?
I think it's a game changer. As I'm walking into my office, it says it on the door, free in 23.
Free in 23. I love that. I love that. I love that. I'm going to totally steal that and encourage my people to put that up on their, what if they use a vision board or hang it on the wall. I think words are so powerful.
Yeah.
And words become thoughts, and thoughts become things. So I
so
love
true.
that little tip.
Yeah, absolutely. And for members in my community who say they're navigating, oh my goodness, this isn't going well, or that isn't going well, or that isn't. I was speaking with a lady over the weekend at our live retreat, and she's like, this didn't go well, and now I don't know what to do with this house, and sitting here empty. And she was just so much consternation. But guess what, Miss Sharon? The house was paid off. There was I said, Miss So-and-so, you have already won. And this is a mantra that I see myself saying on all of my coaching calls. You have already won. You have already, not seeing. And she took a deep breath. She goes, you're right. And how many people are sitting on a paid for house? Yes, it's sitting empty. We'll figure all of that out. But I need you to acknowledge you have already won. What you have is a quality problem right now.
I love that quality problem. That's a good one. And I like the way you view this business too, about less is more.
Yes.
I love that's one thing that I've been studying for a while in the Airbnb world, is how you maximize the profit. How do you get the most profit out of it? And I love the fact that you just claim it, less is more. How can you make the most money from these properties, and how can you set them up so that they have great profitability? And are yours in vacation areas or not in vacation areas?
Oh, this is a loaded question. And I'm going to get on a soapbox if you do not mind, Ms. Sharon, because I love everything about this question. Okay, something that I spoke about at our live retreat this past weekend was a lot of members in my community have portfolios and properties that do not align with their vision and their goal, and that ends now. And so getting really laser focused on what it is that you want out of your portfolio is going to be key. And if you say you want to do luxury, that means saying no to non-luxury types of properties. But first, you need to understand what luxury is. So there are different tiers of luxury. There's nice, there's, and that's standard. There's upscale, there's luxury, there's ultra luxury, and most of our properties are in the luxury. We have a couple in the ultra luxury realm, but there is definitely a difference. And to answer your question, we have both in the vacation areas like Rosemary Beach, Florida, some areas in the Poconos of Pennsylvania, and we have the Smokies of Tennessee as well. So we're primarily East Coast people. However, we have some in the suburban areas of Georgia, nicer areas. And those are actually our luxury midterm rentals, where we cater primarily to insurance policyholder guests and relocation guests that are coming to the area due to the filming industry. We have executives of major movies that come to our properties to stay as they're shooting their film for a season or so. And so it's two-pronged attack. But to answer your question, how do we maximize? So since I work with a lot of W-2 earners like myself, and all of the education started with people at work asking, how'd you do this? How'd you do that? So since I work with a lot of W-2 earners, we leverage some significant tax, I don't want to call them loopholes, but tax benefits.
Yeah, well, they are. Yeah.
Right. Such as your cost segregation study and bonus depreciation, which is available to short-term rentals, which is absolutely amazing. And not a lot of people know this, but I got to a point, Ms. Sharon, when I was standing in a room with when you get to a certain level with your assets and revenue, you get to be in these rooms. And I looked around and no one looked like me. I didn't see any women. I didn't see anyone that looked like me. And what they were talking about were these higher level ways to save on taxes. They were paying essentially, not much in taxes because they have set up a short-term rental business. And I said to myself, oh my goodness, how many of my colleagues are doing this and they don't know that these benefits are out there. So leveraging 1031 exchange, cost segregation studies, bonus depreciation, accelerating that's available in 23, 100% is available in 2022, 80% in 2023, and it phases out. So the tax lever is a huge lever that we take advantage of, and we're able to maximize. While many are really concerned about interest rates are rising and all of that, with the tax savings, we're able to write off this past year $117,000,
wow,
against our W-2 income, which is, and then our investing and so on and so forth. So that is huge. That is one lever of how we maximize on the back end. But as far as the front end, it's all good. As far as on the front end, again, less is more. So getting really laser focused on who is it that we want to serve? Who is your ideal guest avatar? And for us, it's multi-generational, multi-family, traveling with children and pets. That's where we get the biggest bang for our buck. So for instance, if you're traveling with your niece, with your kids, the grandkids, typically there's about 5 or 6 paying units in that, traveling cohort. And so we focus on larger homes in great areas where we can, without blinking an eye, charge $1,000 a night. And then you split that risk among 4, 5, 6 families. It's not as bad. And you're getting a full kitchen, sometimes 2 kitchens, you're getting a full outdoor experience, a full game room, better than a hotel. So it's really creating that experience where they can reconnect with one another, reconnect with nature. And so that's part of how we look for opportunities like that. And so we do put a little bit of lipstick on our properties, but overall it's great properties in great areas that need a little something so that we can force a bit of appreciation into that property as well.
So you are not going in and doing like full gut rehabs. You're looking for properties that are kind of, like you said, need some lipstick. Maybe you accessorize those and get more of the luxury feel and do it from that angle rather than finding a building. Because I know a couple of people that have done that. They have taken a building back to a shell and it's beautiful, but they've dumped $600,000-$700,000 into the renovations. And they've spent a lot of time, and it's hard. Doing those renovations is hard. So that's an interesting tip for people to think about that do not want to dive into the big rehab process. They want to take something nicer, which means you're going to pay more. Almost certainly.
Yes.
But you look at your return on your investment. And I found that what you said to be true. A couple of people in my area that have more luxury type of Airbnbs. One of them says it's all about the beds and the heads. He had taken one that he had that was could be a 3-2 and a 2-2 in one property with 2 kitchens. And the last time I saw him, he said, we took the other kitchen out. It's just a straight one big property now because that's where the money is. He said exactly the same thing you said. I know several people that are doing that. And it's in the beginning, I said to him this few years before COVID, I said, what are you doing? You're buying this thing and it's huge. And he said, no, I think this is what path is going to be. And I had so much trouble wrapping my brain around the fact that he had this house with 5 or 6 bedrooms and all these bathrooms. And it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, that's what attracts a lot of families, especially around COVID. They weren't able to come together, safely And so when you had these larger properties, especially those that were in the vacation areas and the drive to markets, like where you can drive from maybe Connecticut and New York to the Poconos, that was a way to kind of set themselves apart from the hustle and bustle of the cities and just kind of reconnect with one another and reconnect with nature for sure. And I'm seeing an environment of a lot of remote working. Families want to, work during the day and go surfing at night. I have a client who has a 2-bedroom on Paipu in Kauai, right? The
Oh,
island of
wow.
Kauai. Yeah, which is phenomenal. And so if you can provide super fast Wi-Fi in your properties, you can then cater to that remote worker who, wants to experience something in the evening, then they'll stay there, during the day for a couple of weeks at a time, which I think is interesting as well.
That's very interesting. Now, as far as amenities for this type of a rental, what do they look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so this actually ties into the question you asked a little bit earlier. I didn't go through all of our revenue generating mechanisms inside of a property. As you can tell, Ms. Sharon, I love short-term rentals. I absolutely love it. Because how many assets can you say, you know what, I'm just going to pull this lever this month and see how that goes, When it comes to long-term rentals, it's just lock and load. You have the granite countertops, you can increase the price a little bit, you're good to go. What we've learned is that I want to say 30% of revenue from the hotel is generated from amenities or upsells. 30%.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, right? So the nightly stay is one thing, and 30% is what we were taught at the retreat I was at a couple of weeks ago. And here's the deal with the revenue, as it relates to the property, you want to give the people what they want. They're asking for, different recommendations for restaurants, massage, all of these things. If you can partner with local businesses, and get an upsell or, a little finder's fee for it, that is an opportunity. We're not going to, I had a bottle of water. We're not going to upsell a bottle of water. But if you're in an area where a case of water is something that will be a value add, stick it in the closet, give them the code, they grab a case of water. Instead of paying, $4 at the store for it, they pay $8. They're happy. They didn't, miss out on, having to go to the grocery store and find that. So you're giving them essentially what they're asking for. And upsells are responsible, honestly, for an extra $500 to $1,000 a month in our business.
Wow.
And it, again, are things that they are asking for extras. We still provide that nice basket, welcome basket. We still provide your waters, your snacks, but we're talking about that sun hat that everyone loves. We create a little digital store. Go ahead and grab that. It's in the closet, and it's almost on the honor system. So there are goods and then there are services. So if we're going to partner with a local massage therapist that's going to show up, we may charge, $150 for it or $200 for it, but we pay out the vendor $100 for it because it took us time to make those connections. It took us time to kind of put all of that together. I don't know any other industry in real estate where you can do that. So I am loving it all day, every day. Early check-in, late checkouts. Those are things that they're asking for also. And so you can charge an extra 30 or 40 bucks for it every single time. Go ahead, grab it from the store, and they have a link to the store of all the different amenities that you offer. That is yet another way that we're able to generate an extra, a couple $100 per stay.
That's so interesting and such a good idea. Now, don't you think as you move up the scale to higher scale clientele, they're more willing to spend a little extra money for convenience?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And another statistic that I read is the average traveler spending anywhere from $200 to $300 a day at your location. Like they came, they traveled. Yes, they're staying there, but there's $200, $300 that is being spent on food, and it's probably a little more because everything's a little bit more expensive, on food, on transportation. So how do you facilitate that? I know members in our community, they facilitated car rentals, rental car places are struggling right now. I don't know if you've noticed, it's not easy to find a rental car sometimes. So if you can answer or solve a problem, those who solve problems are those who are going to, get the bag essentially, right? If you can solve that problem for them and create an environment where you have a car available, of course, you want to make sure you're checking with insurance to set that up correctly. They have a car there,
Oh, so
so
you provide a car.
for certain guests, yes, our executive guests, a car.
Mhm.
And of course, the car has to kind of mirror the type of property. So like an
Mhm.
Audi SUV for one of our properties, and the car essentially pays for itself with the guests, the way the guest is using it. Yes. So we can
Okay.
provide a driver to the airport to the property and a car at the place. We don't do that for all the properties. It's not going to
Mhm.
be a good fit for all your properties, but survey your guests. Hey, would a car have been convenient for you? The guests will let you know. Guests let you know all about yourself, which I love. At first, I was offended, but I was like, wait a minute. It's probably true what they're saying.
First, you were
They
offended.
will
I
tell
love
you the
that.
truth about yourself. And it's an opportunity because ultimately it can turn into an extra service. Oh, would be nice to have. Okay. So we'll add
Um,
that. Some things are, you can implement, but some things you can actually charge for because it's your time, your energy, your team implementing. So,
that's
yeah.
a great tip because I think from a business standpoint, you should always be surveying your customers and find out. It can be painful if they tell you fell short in some way, but then you won't be falling short the next time. Because let's face it, sometimes you cannot anticipate what's in their mind. And even when you have a course, a thing I like to do is say, what would have been helpful in my course, to you? What could be added? And I've gotten some really good comments along the way. Things
Yeah.
that you just kind of a light bulb moment. Why the heck didn't I think about that? But the fact is, you know too much. For you, that little thing might be inconsequential to you when it's a big thing for them.
Yeah.
But you don't know unless you ask. And that's the truth.
So true. I love surveys now. I survey
Yeah.
everything. If I went live and I did a teaching, what was missing? And the next time it's better and better. And now the new folks who interact with me say, well, you thought of everything. No, it's the surveys that gave me,
Mhm.
the insights to implement new things and update things. So, yeah.
Now, you mentioned something that I've known about and the book, The Blue Ocean Strategy. And I love that you have that in there as a way to differentiate. So we talked about one of our favorite people before we got on the show. Another one of my favorite authors is Mike Michalowicz. And he's written the books, all those books, Profit First and
Yeah.
Clockwork. And I had the honor of having him on my podcast this year when he wrote a book on marketing, because I'm a marketing nerd, and it was Get Different: Marketing That Can't Be Ignored. And the thing we talked about is differentiation. Different is better than better. Because when you get in the better field, you're always competing on price. Well, I'm better, but I'm also $10 cheaper. You just want to be in the position where you're better, you're different, and you're the obvious choice, and they'll pay whatever the going rate is for you. So how do you use this way of thinking to differentiate yourself in your business?
Oh, I love that question. And I have the great pleasure of sharing the stage with Mike Michalowicz in March at a
Oh,
short-term rental summit that is going to be in Nashville. So I'm super excited about that. And you're absolutely right. When Ms. Sharon, when people ask me, well, how do you compete with all the other short-term rentals?
mhm,
You know what I say to them? I said, what competition?
mhm,
There is no competition. And what I'm sharing on your show today about surveying your guests, no one
mhm,
else is doing that, Ms. Sharon.
mhm,
Like, can you imagine? Do you hear people talking about we survey our guests, we set up stores within the property that offer value to the guests
mhm,
that they were not expecting.
mhm,
We let them know and a lot of it is automated messaging, and some of it is custom. So we want to make sure that we're being efficient with our time. But when it's time for a custom message, we're gonna customize a message. But oh, by the way, we have a store. And then
mhm,
in the store, they're going to find everything they could have ever, hoped for in terms of what previous guests have asked for. So part of our meeting with our team, okay, what's the feedback we're getting from guests? All right, let's add that to the store. Let's reach out to the handyman. Like, we keep a tight ship. And that's how we're able to differentiate ourselves. Our competitors have slapped the listing of grandma's house on Airbnb and what is set it and forget
set it and forget
it.
it. Yeah, let Airbnb take care of everything.
Right. Right. And so we're not doing that. We're not in the business of setting and forget it. We're looking at our budget. We're looking at our quarterly improvements. We have a list of the survey responses from our guests. And we say, okay, this is going to be a Q1 2023 update. This is going to be a Q2 23. So we pace it out. We're not going in and we're putting all of our dollars in there. We need the revenue to make the updates that they're requesting. And some of it is, no, we're not going to make that update. That's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. But we do everything in our power to survey our guests. And I guarantee you right now, Sharon, not a lot of people are doing that. I don't know the numbers, but I don't think a lot of people are surveying. And that's what sets us apart, because we want our ideal guests, when they look through our photos and they see the views, they see the tour of the entryway, the kitchen that's fully stocked. We have a $1 million photo with the stove and all of the pots, pans, the colander next to the stove, beautifully staged. So when you're coming to cook, we have everything you need. Then they see the bedrooms, they see the pillows are fluff, they see the beautiful bathrooms. Then they see all of the amenities that we have to offer, especially for our families in the drive-to markets. They're going to see the crib, the high chair, the stroller, all staged beautifully in a staged play area. When they see our listing, and they know that we are talking to them specifically, they see that they say, wow, this host, Rachel, says, I see you because I see you and you see me. Why chance it and pay less and go and stay at this other place that may or may not have your needs taken care of?
That's brilliant.
Let me take care of you. And I say it in my copy, come, let me take care of you. Come, let us. Our other hosts aren't doing a call to action. My listings have a call, come and let me take care of you. I got you covered. And they see
I love that.
And they see that. That's the difference.
Let me clarify one thing. When you talk about your store, are we talking about you have a closet with your stuff? What you have? So you have a closet with your stuff?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's like it may be a set aside closet with a little code. And it's an honor system. Some areas, like if you're in a very busy metro area, I wouldn't do too much of that, so to speak. I would focus more on services than goods if you're afraid of theft or something like that, right? But in our, locations, we don't really have that type of issue. And we also kind of let them know, oh, by the way, we have your credit card on file and you will get a better review if you take more than you're supposed to. So if it's the sun hat, we'll have 4 sun hats there. We're expecting you to take 1, and there's going to be 3 remaining. If we'll have 5 cases of water, if you take 1, I think once the software developer who created the store, I said, what has been the biggest thing that you've seen that's stolen? She goes, yeah, someone stole a bag of oatmeal. I'm like, okay, if they needed that oatmeal for their cholesterol level, you know what? So nothing major at all. So it really depends on your demographic, and you want to cater to areas that your guests in a certain area. I know one of my clients has a beautiful property in Coachella, near Coachella, and she had I forget what they call it. It's, oh man, when people kind of over drink on alcohol and they have to kind of remediate with the Tylenol and the caffeine, like she has the kit to get you like back to standing on your feet. And individually, those items would cost probably $8. She charges $25 for that kit to just like get you back on your feet. And they love it. In Death Valley, where it's like too hot, chapstick. My client, she charges $9 for a thing of chapstick that was $1, and they say, you saved my life. You saved my life, and it's not going to be one size fits all for all your markets, but understanding the needs of your guests, understanding that market, you can really create something special for them.
So there's software for the store and a special code. I love that. Yeah. And I love the fact that, so this is, for me, I make a comparison of the mini bar in the hotel where you have to, once you break the seal, they know you've been in there and they know what the inventory was. So I can see where that would work pretty well with this clientele. That's actually a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's revenue generating. And I feel like depending on how you set it up, you have an opportunity to create so much revenue with that as an additional benefit to your property. And people love that as they're booking. It's like, by the way, we have a store, and it's just a link, and the link opens up this almost like a shoppable experience, like an Amazon cart, and it has your property name and it has the different items and the price, and that's it. Once you purchase, it says, okay, go to the door behind the closet and put in code such and such and grab your item.
Brilliant. I love that. That is a great, great tip.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel, I could probably stay on here all day long, but we don't want to do that. Have you got some final advice for folks? If they want to go in this business, they want to be you. They want to be Rachel.
Oh, yeah, I'm a numbers and I'm a data girl for sure. So I know we didn't go into market analysis or anything like that, but I do begin with the end in mind. So I'm looking at regulations, I'm looking at the markets, the right markets to be in. And so every year I create my top 75 cities that I'm looking at to invest in. And so I would love to share that with your audience. 75gems.com. You want to begin with understanding, what strategy you want to execute and the markets where it's going to work. So my top 75 cities, if you want to grab that free list, 75gems.com. It's a spreadsheet. It's an ugly old spreadsheet, but everyone loves it because it gives you the different data points of the revenue you should expect and the investment you should expect in making into purchasing a property in that particular market. And I think that's a great way to start to get your mind around how to start looking at those numbers, because we want to make sure the deal works on paper before we even approach putting any money into it. So go to 75gems.com, and then that'll link you up to all of the other things inside of my community.
And I've got all of Rachel's links here. So I'll be sure and put all of those in the show notes, because she's just got a bunch of stuff you're going to love. So thanks again, Rachel, for coming on the show. I do feel like there's probably a couple of shows here to get all this information out of you. But thanks for taking the time and coming on the show today.
Oh, I'm happy to come back if you would have me, Ms. Sharon. But thank you so much. Again, I so appreciate the value that you provide to this community. It's near and dear to me that this information is disseminated to our community. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you. And thanks to all the listeners that come out week after week. I know you love this show, so give Rachel a little love. Please leave us a rating and a review over on iTunes. And I will see you all same time, same place. And bye for now. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.